And then recording in progress. As the people come in, they can get right. But we're gonna go ahead and get this train rolling. Good evening, the Zamunda people. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen to the bot chat. All right, here we are on the bot chat. On the bot chat. Right here. So we're gonna come up here to pin messages, or not pin, but the pin list. And this is my favorite setup: inside week, inside day, inside. So we're gonna go ahead month, week, and day. We'll go ahead and hit those commands, get that list popping. Inside month. That's a pretty hefty list. Okay. All right. We're whittling it down. Dang. Ain't no way all this is inside day. Ain't no way. All right. Let's go ahead and get this popping here. Bot chat. There we go. Close that. All right. Today's date. Happy 420 for those who celebrate. You know, put one in the air for me. All right. Inside month. Let's go ahead and get this set up straight. Do it like this. Shabam. There we go. There we go. All right. I am surprised to see so many things still inside month. Definitely have to whittle that down a bit. Of course, never on the first try. There we go. Inside a week. And then day. I'm going to try and keep this 30 minutes tops on the vid. All right. We've got our list. Now let's examine. Okay. Off rip. Seeing. I know my OneDrive is full. ADP. I am not familiar with it, but I'm gonna mark it. How's your guys' weekend so far? What's everybody been looking at? Chipotle. Definitely marking them. Cause don't they have a stock split coming up? It's gonna go dumb. Pawn. Are they inside month two? No, they're not. Okay. So not seeing a lot of inside week action on top of inside month. I mean, here's Kroger. You can get double up on that. Mm-mm. But I do like Kroger. Kind of a slower mover, but see where they're trading at right now. Ooh, I like that setup. We're above an EMA. We have a fair value gap here, and we could come after these wicks. Um, that's on the monthly. It's so far a tail two up, but if we throw some fibs on there, we can see how far we've retraced from the previous month. And we're in a nice range. I mean, that's a good little bounce area. So just something to bear in mind. Kroger, and then we look at the weekly. That little area right there, 58.26. I'd be curious to see what the volume looks like at the 60 calls. We've already captured the equal highs. It really wouldn't be hard to come and capture the monthly high up here either. So like Kroger's definitely one to watch. Kroger, 65 calls. Just a little note there. All right. Cisco Systems. Another slow mover, but this is a good swing that pays pretty well. Um, I'm gonna want to look at those contracts too. I mean, with the movement we've had, it's kind of in not correction territory, but it's a pretty healthy pullback we've had on the S&P. It's expected for this to happen. I'm just surprised that I'm not seeing a lot more inside week, inside month combination. Pawn, I know Sal has mentioned pawn multiple times, so we're definitely gonna check out pawn. See, it kind of says we can yield from that. Cody, I think this is a marijuana stock. Um, Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah. We're not getting at that. Okay. It's a beauty company. Interesting. Totally wrong. Not a marijuana stock. Um, I don't know. I've seen it pop up a few times. Has anyone here traded Cody before? I personally haven't. I had shares at one point, but nothing to write home about. All right. There's one of the money printer space right there. And I also know that Sal mentioned the XLB sector not too long ago. So we're going to try and keep those short and sweet. Materials, something to think about. Steel is inside month. And I've had great success trading steel before. So X is always a good one to keep on your radar when things start to rotate. Yeah. Are there any tickers any of you would like to look at as far as what's on this list here for inside? Don't go wild at once, y'all. Don't go wild at once. Um, Curious to see Riven. And yeah, because when we do this, we're gonna go here, high short interest, and see what pops up. Mm, boom. Mm, plug might be one to go look at. And yep, that's about all on that, folks. Ooh, Carvana. Did it pop up on any list? No, no, no. Coin inside month is interesting. All right, so let's go ahead and get into a few of these that I'm familiar with. We're gonna look at X. Not my favorites, not my favorites. But in XLB, we're gonna get some strat setups on these and add them to a watch list. Nothing crazy, nothing too intense. I'm gonna start with Kroger. And right now, reviewing this, we've come out of a bullish order block on the weekly. We're pretty far up on the EMA. So that's a good sign that we have some bullish momentum. I'm gonna take a zoom out view just to see if there's any kind of underlying trend I'm not seeing. But when we come back to the daily, in case anybody's wondering what these are, these are just line labels. This is the monthly high, previous week high, weekly high. If you go with acronyms, you can piece it together. Weekly low, previous week low, boom, boom, boom. I think we can come for this gap though. And given that we're not even at quote unquote all-time highs, we've still got right here $60 calls, $65 calls might make some moves because we could come into this fair value gap. And let's look at bar chart and see what the contracts are looking like real quick. Like, all right, option prices. I would take this swing definitely a month out. I wouldn't take any kind of weeklies on this. So I'm looking at the 517s. And on the call side, we've had volume increase over this past week, a little bit, a little open interest change on the $55 calls. The $60 calls are only 25. The delta's not as high as I would like. I prefer 17, 18, but given that you have enough time on this and we're already a few dollars away, let's go ahead and see what the ATR looks like on this. Let me bring that physically to the front. Visual order. Bring that up. Yeah. No, no, no. Okay, we're gonna look at the monthly ATR. Well, how many points is it gonna move in a month? So in a typical month, we've already exceeded the monthly move. Yikes. Okay, there we go. Change it up, change it up. In a month, it takes Kroger to move about $4.50. And that's from open, so 57 plus 4, we can just generalize. That's going to be $61. And we're starting a new month fairly shortly. Okay, we've only got a week and a half. But if we get these contracts out on the monthly 517s, that's plenty of time to make a move in our direction. Um, Looking at the weekly expected move, so $2 a week. We're inside week now, so we're gonna mark this as our break for next week. And for puts, I really like the concept of coming back into this fair value gap because we want to be prepared for either side, right? We don't need to be biased, but technically these wicks would be our first target, which puts us in range. The put entry would be 5509 on these on the week, with the first target coming in over here, 5428, and then we'd come down to 5379. but I like coming into this gap like right in this area. And then final destination being 52. So let's talk about it pragmatically. We move $2 a week on Kroger if it goes the complete move from where this would break, 55 minus 2 puts us at 53. The secondary target could very well happen. But I have a bias to the upside because this low key for me feels like a TTO, but this could be a piss poor rejection as well. So let's not, yeah, we're still two up, even though it's a failed two up on the month right now. It's not super heavy. Like this weekly candle really came up and reduced any kind of selling pressure that was there in the short term. So on the call side, we have 56.73 as our call entry on the weekly. Then from there, we have this gap that I really would love to see get filled, but realistic target, we're going to set it. We're going to keep it, profitable, not, fanciful. 57.94 is not a bad target. So boom, that's roughly $2 there. And then let's hit there. And then 58.98. So the $60 calls, so long as you move in your direction with that 3 weeks time, that 4 weeks time, these are going to make a move. So I would suggest if you don't even take them, add them to your watch list at least, like or add them somewhere like I don't know where you can like just kind of monitor the movement because we're starting to go in a positive direction here and puts slowly on the decline. Like there's open interest here, but there's not movement. The $55 calls got movement. So these 60s, they're gonna probably go up to like $80 as we get, that volume pouring in. Next stock on the list, Cisco. And we're not talking about the dude who does the thong song either. Cisco Systems. Ooh, baby, baby. Now are they on the monthly or the weekly? These are the monthly cats. Inside month. Okay. Not a fan of where we're at. But also not going to complain about it because we're kind of consolidating. This right here is marked on my chart. This is a bullish order block on the monthly, and then up here is bearish. Um, with all of that, we have the ability to poke down further into this block and capture these equal lows, which would be great. Tech's been getting kind of hit, so that's something to bear in mind as well. So let's come in here and let's look at so that was a weekly. I'm going to mark this level on the weekly just because if we gap down, we're definitely going to clear this level. And we'll see if we make another higher low. Because if we make another higher low, then boom, we're coming back through this range. But if we not, game on. That's the previous year low. I know you tripping. Cisco's a slow mover, but it's gonna hold its value. Your contracts are gonna hold nice and steady on the price. And see, anytime you see us trading sideways, that we're in between blocks on smaller time frames. So on the daily, we have this big giant bear block here. And on the daily we also have a bull block, but it wants to break through. It's just a lot of pressure. These equal highs is also an area I'm gonna mark because the monthly is not giving what it needs to be giving. Like for the past 1, 2, 3 months, just been trading kind of sideways, up and down. We're below an EMA here. Which one do I have? So 21. Yeah, we can go ahead and bump that up to the 50 and see what it looks like. So we're just holding like right by the 50 and below the 21. We're squeezing to one direction or the other, Quarterly, let's take a glance. The overall trend is it's currently up. Okay, like the higher time frames are showing we're moving up. So pullback is healthy. In fact, you can almost see visually how we have a channel developed here. I'm gonna draw it for your eyes. And right there. So you see it visually how we're kind of gonna bounce. So I would just be mindful of when we clear this 45.66 level. Again, that's where I have the weekly equal lows that we still have to come capture. But you're in the middle of this bull block, so we're going to chop around a bit. We could easily capture these equal lows on the weekly, come down and touch this channel that's been created. See how we're responding to it? Okay, easily touch this channel and then come right back up through this level. And again, when I showed you the EMA on the monthly level, we're above the 50. But if I throw another EMA on here, we're below the 21. I do not like the ribbon. I'm not a fan. It's just the regular. Boop.
Come eat. Go eat. We get to it. See.
Boop. So yeah, visually you guys can see how we're trading this space, and we're gonna break one way or the other. So let's look at targets that are realistic. The ATR for what we got going here on Cisco Systems on the monthly, we could move the potential of $4.50. Ooh, doesn't seem as sexy when you're like looking at SPY and QQQ trading that each day, but we don't want to be sexy. We want to be profitable. So let's be mindful of that. On the weekly time frame, you're only going to get about close to $2. That's about it. So we want to be conservative. I would definitely go monthlies on these. Let's look for weekly targets. Okay, so short term wise, the 45.66, I wouldn't look at that as a target. I would look at that as kind of like a break point for entry, because once you break these equal lows, you're going to accelerate down. And if you don't go for the higher low to capture it and make a lower low, you're going to bounce. And it's right in line. Like history's repeating itself. I don't know what else to show y'all. The lower low, the higher low, the higher low, the higher low. This could be a turning point for sure, but let's not make that our expectation. If it is, we can find another target, but we'd use the 45.66 as the point of breaking, or we can use the monthly, and we can't really use the monthly because we're in the middle of the month. So that's why I went to the weekly in case people are wondering. Let's see, we break below the previous month of 47.68, then for sure we've got some room to free fall. So let's go ahead and mark those up. Boom. Boom, 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 boom. All right, and then in here. Okay, so let's talk through these targets. Technically speaking, you could use with volume the break of last month's open as an entry point. I don't know how confident people are in doing that, but I've definitely used the body breaks before. We're in the middle of this bull block again on the weekly. So you want to think, smart. You don't want to get overzealous. Let me turn it off real quick. So if we use the 47.66 as our breaking point, right here, we want to look for the 47.20 and then the 46.43 targets. So the 45 puts for next month. Let's see what they look like. All right, $42, not crazy, not crazy. Plenty of open interest. Volume is slowly pouring in around this area. Um, but the delta is great on these contracts. I love the 18 to 24 range on deltas if you're going out. If you want to be more conservative, definitely the 113s aren't too bad in price. For the 4750 puts, we can go to options profit calculator and check it out real quick. You can see what potentially it could go for. 47 puts, calculate. All right, so Cisco, let's say we get to 4766 and then 4720. 4720, where's that put us? So you could be up around, let's go back up to the dates. So before you get to near your expiration, okay, we're looking at by the end of next week. If you come down to 47, you're already up almost 30%. And then as we descend further, realistic target being 46.43. You're in the 46.60 range by next week, you could be up 50% on the position just by the time you hit 46.60. So that's something to look at on the short side. On the long side for Cisco, we're going to look at the weekly as our entry point, 49.72. Just want to glance at the monthly. Yeah, I like that as a potential because we're already down on the month. So looking for us like come back up here and wait for the reversal is kind of going to be not only extremely hard on the discipline side, but kind of hard to visualize. And I'm not seeing like there's plenty of open interest, plenty of volume on the call side for the May 17th expiration as well. So I would say the 5250, that has my attention off rip. The delta's not quite where I want it, but 15 isn't bad again, especially when you have this much time. The time is your intrinsic value on these contracts when you look at monthlies. So 5250, it just seems like a stretch from here. But again, when you look at the way these EMAs are playing with each other, and then to also say we have the bullish block that we're coming out of on the weekly, my money's on puts. I have a put bias in this chart, but anything can happen. Okay. So you want to just keep an eye on the way the movement of the 5250s are going. But as far as put strikes, definitely the 4750s and the 45s have my favor. You could play around with the 4250s if you want to do like a low key lotto, but I am not a fan of how low the delta is on that contract, irregardless of how much time you have. Next ticker, pawn, 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 pawn. What? Haha, I do that every time. Okay, is that the weekly or the monthly? The weekly? Yeah, weekly. Okay. Right now we're above the 50, below the 21 on an EMA. This is a doji on the weekly. This is how I like to see an inside bar because you have plenty of room on either side. And if you find a break on a smaller time frame, you can get a little bias built. So let's build one. Merp, merp. Right now, the 21 is crossed below the 50 EMA, giving me a bear bias. Then we have a bearish order block that we've poked into. This is the inducement period here. So I am still bearish on the bias tip on that. And that's on the daily. Looking at it on the weekly, which is where we're going to mark our inside, this looks to me like a bearish pennant symbol. Where's my highlighter? So something like, ooh, that's hideous. No, highlighted. Something like this, right? To come down. That's what I would be looking for this chart pattern to do. So marking the weekly, boom, boom, boom. Our entry. And with volume, sometimes I would take a body break on that entry. Like, I'd like to be early to the party so I can leave early. But here we go. Weekly targets up here with the 290 and then to the downside. Here we go. Because keep in mind that even though this pattern's down here, short term, we might come back up and capture these wicks. Anything could happen. But bearish bias still. And I'm going to mark this change of character here. So let's see what the monthly ATR is for. Okay, so we get a 41-point move roughly in a month. That's great to know. I like CASA. On the weekly, we moved roughly 24. Okay. All right, so these are in range targets. Coming down to the daily, 24-point move. If I wanted to enter off of that weekly break, I'm entering at 270. But if we wanted to get an early entry, this gap fill that's right here on the daily, I don't know if y'all see that little bit of work right there, but that gap fill would be, an area of interest because we could either come down and bounce back up. We already came to that fair value gap, but we didn't clear it all the way. So we could come down, fill this gap, and continue, which a continuation off of this gap, I would look at that as early entry for the 265 puts. And again, I would look at these far out. Hit them with the mute, mute, mute. So right here, the 265, that's a nice area because we have another gap here. And so we don't want to get greedy because we have this first gap fill. We want to see how we respond to it. But yeah, here and here, I would look at the 275 area. Once we get confirmation from that, I would then take the continuation to the put side for 265 because if you wait all the way to the 270 to enter off of this break, you miss a good portion of this move. That's all I'm saying. That's why I'm trying to find the early entry on the daily. To the call side, it's looking really raggedy because we're in the middle of this bear block. Could we come through it? I would want to say yes, but given that we are already, yeah, the EMAs are kind of deviating. So let me just previous week open. There's a lot more areas of magnitude that I'm seeing down here than I'm seeing up here. Other than the previous week high and the weekly high, no, we have to the downside the previous week open, which is right by where this gap fill would be. So like my money's on the downside for this one. Let's look at the actual charts and let's look at the contracts. All right, these are month out. So because I know these can be a little bit more pricey, we're gonna go ahead and bump it up a week, burn some of that value off. And we're gonna look at the delta first, okay? The 260 puts over 21, I like it, 21. You have open interest and volume pouring in here. I'm gonna go back to the monthlies just because I want to see where their head's at in the consensus. So yeah, there's tons of volume and open interest on these monthlies. The 240 puts, they're too far out in my opinion. Can we hit that target down here? Ooh, it's a stretch. From 277 to 240 is a $30 drop, and on a weekly we do 24 points. So we would need at least 2.5, 3 weeks to hit that. On a daily, we hit 8 points roughly. Okay, cool, cool. 8 points from that. Bum, bum, bum. 250 is as low as I would go because the delta, again, not my favorite, like that 18, 19, 20 range. 15, I might tap a 15 here and there if I know the stock very well, but no. The call side, I'm not seeing a lot of things pop off over here. Um, like except for this 300. How far are we away from 300? 290. And then this is kind of like a fair value gap situation. I mean, psych levels two. Here's 300 right here. If we bounce off of the 50 EMA on the weekly, 300 is not unrealistic. Again, remember I said we could come back and capture these wicks. So the 290 calls, looking at those, damn. Well, it's not that bad. You got great delta. The open interest is there. I would I would mess around and get the 300s, thinking from a round number psych level. Um, that's just something to look at with those. So, boop, 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 steel. The delta I look for, monthlies, no lower than one. All right, I typed in the chat, Mr. Paul. I really like literally, I hate to say it, but more times than not, that point 0.3 extra, between what's the difference between 0.15 and 0.18? That zero point 0.3 for me has made difference in the past just because of timing and the way the Greeks play out. And I think it also varies from ticker to ticker how we respond to the rapid rate of movement. So I'm gonna look at X next. Not steel. Steel. And where was this one inside at? Is this a monthly inside? Yeah, it's just inside on the monthly. Boo. All right. Immediately, the first thing that jumps out on the weekly is it looks like a TTO. See that triangle? There you go. But on the monthly, yeah, yeah, buddy. I think we're coming back to retest this area. Um, I would love to make up a story about something different, but no cap. It just looks straight up like we're going down to at least where this EMA is. 33, 30. That feels about right. Change of character happen 30, 50. 30, 50. That's what my target is. I'm not even gonna go any further with that one. I just knew. So when we look at on the smaller time frames, because it is inside month, but again, we're still in the middle of this month. So being that it has an A, we're below the previous year high. We are below the monthly open. We are pretty much done with this fair value gap. There's no reason why we shouldn't come and click this previous month low. They could stop us right here. Seen it happen before, but not feeling that way right now. So from 38.59 to 36.38. 35 puts I'm looking at, and then I will also look at and consider, this is a nice chunk, this 33. So yeah, increments of 3 are these targets. Let's look at the total ATR for the month, see where we're sitting. Okay, steel's only going to make about a $6 move in a month's time. We're 80% of the way there. So we got another couple dollars. It wouldn't hurt us to come here, but how are we going to play that going into the middle of next month? Let's look at the weekly structure. We only move about $2.50 each week. Cool, cool. Yeah, that's next week. Week after. Yeah, that feels good. Feels natural. Let's look at the daily, see if we run into any kind of bull blocks, any weird snaps happening here. So we have filled this gap from December of 23. Like, boom, it got filled in the middle of March. Where is our next area of rebalancing? We have equal lows on the daily, all the way down here around 34. Where is that? Hold on. I don't know if you guys can see it on my chart. So here's the equal lows, $34, 33.98. I'm gonna mark it at 34 just to keep it clean in that area. So yeah, this would be the big target. And mathematically, if we're doing, $2 a week, boom, here's $2. It puts us in the middle next week. We continue downward force. Boom, another $2. We're at the daily equal lows. So let's look at the actual puts for May. 34, where you at, where you at? 34, that spread is not attractive at all, but look at the open interest. Yeah, that open interest is wild. For the 35 puts even too. And the delta is above my little threshold, so I definitely like 35 puts. I am not a fan of the spreads at all. I'm just gonna double down, like that's ridiculous. The mid is 67 at So let's go ahead and bump it up and look at the top of May. This gives us a couple weeks out. Boom, boom. 2 weeks out, what's it looking like? 35s. Yeah. So the monthly contract has all the volume and open interest. You'd have to look at the weeklies the week of. Can I make a call case? Not really. Not really making a call case here. Um, I would like to see on a smaller time frame before we take entry to anything below. I would like to see, based off of the way we're structured here, I would like to see us come up and tap into this bear block one more time before coming down. That would be ideal to enter up here, but the range is kind of tight. Again, we are still inside, even though it is a TTO on the weekly. I would still like to see us come up to shoot back down. Just saying. XLB, the final one for us this evening. Materials. Now, where did it say it was inside? Inside day? Oh, yay. Okay. Um, this is another one at a glance off rip. We've already filled the gap here. This gap is from March, honey, March. Well, we have a few more spaces we can come below. Like over here, February. Uh, mm, But this is look like it's a building support right here at the 50 EMA. And if we come down to a smaller time frame, the consolidation is really hard, but at a glance, it looks like another bearish pennant. Boop, boop, boop. So with the way materials have been, the whole market in general having this nice healthy pullback, I'm curious to see if this has been support. Okay, it's 5%. Cool. Even though on the 4 hour, we're just not crossing my 21 over the 50, this is a good area that were to bounce for us to come up and then come down. Just something similar to this. Like, see this pattern here? Boom, find a little support, pop up, and then come back down. That's the movement I would be looking for out of this. It's a strong month down. There's no denying it. And because we've had so much downward pressure, I'd be looking for some kind of a relief bounce just so we can get some more liquidity to the downside. Being that it's inside day, this fair value gap that's been created here would be a great target for the call side. I'm going to mark the midway, or let's do it proper. Let's bust out a fib on it. Got a fib. So yeah, the 90-20 area. And then coming down, the previous month high, the 87-80 area. This would be a good target because once we break here, we can't technically, we don't want to qualify it's too close. That is a target. Boom. Even though technically it is. But down in here gives us you a little more range. So you can let your trade breathe a bit. And I'll even come to the body. So yeah. The entry off of this inside day, it's gonna be here. 88.63 area, and for the call side, 89.64. And 90 calls. And if you don't want to play steel, steel is a material. Technically, XLB is materials too. The calls for the 17, not a lot of like open interest there, but the 92s have interest. And their delta is not bad at all. 74, the mid is, see the spreads, just like with steel, the spreads are crap. On the put side, where is it we're looking at? 88, 88 puts, but we have a lot of openers at 87. Spreads are still too far for my taste, but the delta is great. It's looking phenomenal. 30s, chef's kiss. But yeah, I don't want to hold you guys too much longer. That was our bot chat scan on the insides. And I hope you guys have a wonderful evening. Take some notes, send some ideas to the chat, and we'll rap about them later, y'all. Have a good night.